Okay. I want to speak on my pilgrimage to Girnar mountain on 16th May this year, 2015, because in many ways it was a very extraordinary experience, and I want to keep a record while it's all still fresh in my mind. Girnar is the tallest mountain peak in Gujarat state. It is near a place called Junagadh, which means old fort, and there is an old fort there. And that is about 2 hours away from Rajkot, which is the next big town. So it's quite easily connected and everything. And it's very ancient. Historically, mythologically, there's a lot to it, but I'm speaking from a yogic perspective. It is strange. There is something insane about it. Not in that the person has got demented or something, or gone mad or incapable, but it is so much beyond sanity, it is so much beyond reason, that the only word is actually insane. And after coming down from that whole experience and climbing up and everything, I have understood another thing also, which probably I'm going to be the first person to say it, in that there seems to be an energy connection, like a thick rope between Kailasa and Arunachala, and that goes, if we start from the southern mountain, and I'm reasonably sure there is, even in the hill of Shabrimala in Kerala, there is one, the connection extends till there. So if we start from Shabrimala hill and we go to Arunachala, then we go to Shanmuga hill in Karnataka, then we go to Girnar, then we go somewhere in between. It's probably what is that famous pilgrimage spot now where they all go, the Devi place? Vaishno Devi, probably some Vaishno Devi. From Vaishno Devi into the Himalayas, where there are Om Parbat and all those extraordinary places. And then the connection takes you forward into Kailasa. There seems to be like a whole series of, I don't want to create an analogous thing with the chakras, that it is like the chakras of the body, because then people will be like, which is Manipura, which is Swadhisthana. No, it's not like that. It is not like that. But I would say there is like this is my my insight, or my experience, or what is dawning upon me, like a rope of Shakti from Kailasa, it snakes its way all down, and that is what keeps the Kshetram of India in place. Because even though India is very damaged, it is still a Kshetram. The entire geography of India was at one period of time sanctified. Now all of Nepal was at one time made a Kshetram, and it was Gorakshanath Kshetram. So today, very obviously, the Kshetram has been damaged very badly because 2 earthquakes in 3 weeks. There are other reasons for it. There are yogic reasons, occult reasons, quite apart from tectonic plates, which is the real reason. But there is also, but this sense of the land is connected, the whole country is one single unified energy being connected by this vital flow of prana from mountain to mountain. And they are all, Shanmuga hill is Kartikeya, Subramanya. Arunachala is Dakshinamurti himself. The Shabrimala is Ayyappa, who's confluence of Shiva and Vishnu. The Girnar is Dattatreya, who's Brahma, Vishnu, and Gorakshanath himself sat over there for some time. And the other odd thing is that they seem to be all male energies holding it together, not female energies. And then finally we end up with Kailas once we are past the Himalayas and into Tibet. So that entire space between Tibet to Kerala, that entire space seems to have been I don't know, held together is a strange word, but that entire space seems to have been linked together. There seems to be a permanent flow of energy, and I know people are going to misuse what I have said just now and start creating stupid paintings with chakras and everything. This is the chakra here, that is the chakra there. And that's not what I am saying. It's not a chakra system. It's not a pranic body of India is linked by these main chakras. Anybody who says that, they are to blame for that nuisance, not me. All I am saying is that India is a kshetram, and there is a way that the kshetram is held together, and it seems to be held together by the connection between these secret places. Because I was there in Girnar and I could sense the kshetram of Arunachala very easily. And they are two completely different. I mean, nothing on the planet compares to Arunachala. That's basic. Other people have different opinions, but insofar as I am concerned, that's it. That is the pinnacle of consciousness. But there is something deeper going on. There is something very, very ancient going on. And unless you are very attuned to Arunachala, that sense of ancientness does not descend upon you. You have to be very ancient, and then your mind basically blows a fuse, because the sheer number of hundreds of millions of years, not just ordinary millions of years, but hundreds of millions of years, that sense of age dawns upon you. This place is also pretty old, and it is very hard and uncompromising energy. In my life, I have never seen a sacred place which is so hard. And the three main yogis or masters who are supposed to be there. Nimaynath, who is a Tirthankara, one of the early Tirthankaras. Before Parashnath and Mahavira, it was Nimaynath, and he's supposed to be Krishna's own cousin. Krishna was the Vasudeva of the time, and he was the Tirthankara. And Balarama was the Baladeva. They believe every time there is a Tirthankara, along with him a Vasudeva, who is a perfect all-round personality and an avatar of strength incarnate. And the Tirthankara is the person who breaks through, but there will always be a Vasudeva and a Baladeva. So Nimaynath was there. Gorakshanath is there. Gorakshanath is the highest peak on Girnar. It's actually a series of peaks. Gorakshanath is the highest peak. And Dattatreya was there. So these are all exceedingly uncompromising energies. And then the Nathpanthi yogis have been going, and the Jain yogis have been going, and there is even a Devi temple there, but it seems to be rather recent. It does not seem to fit into the general vibration or the general energy there. And there was a cave where one of the yogis were. So the overwhelming impression of Girnar is hard. There is just this sense of we are not going to make any concessions and any compromises and make things deela for you. You have to take us on our terms, or please go back. And that is quite a strange thing to experience. And the mountain has been set with steps of stone. We couldn't find out anything because locals are generally useless in saying anything historically. But it seems to be quite an ancient practice, and you are basically just climbing steps. They say 10,000 steps, 9,999, but that's not true. The guys who go up have counted, and 7,550 in total. And so from Junagadh you begin the climb, and it's forest. You are basically climbing from forest, and it's hot. We of course went in absolutely the worst possible time of the year, mid-May, and so I believe that day the temperatures were 45 degrees, and so we were going up in 45-degree heat, which is why I keep saying the 8 spiritual breaths are the most extraordinary thing, because you can pull off weird stunts like this. The people I was with were very deeply into sadhana, but they were not into the Shakti aspect of sadhana like I am. They are not very energy sensitive people. So they could not follow what was going on with me, because how do I explain this? There was no pain, but I was moving through thick soup, not water, soup, because there are ingredients in the, there are, when you try to wade through water, you realize how difficult that movement is, and that was exactly, and you have to put one step. Of course, they give you bamboos and everything to rest your weight. The guys who are the guides or the people who carry people up on the palkis, they don't have sticks, they don't have bamboos, they have staff, they have literal thick, heavy cudgels, that they lean up and they go. It was not like a dismissive energy, go from here. It is not a unwelcoming energy, you are not wanted here. It was just uncompromising. I have never in my life ever come onto a sacred place with that kind of energy, where it is simply not interested in you. Rather, not interested in your issues or your limitations. You want to gain from here, you want to draw Shakti from here, earn it. It took us 6 hours to get to the top, to the final peak, not the top, because the top is different from the final peak. And it took us 4.5 hours to come down. So 11 hours, we started off at exactly 9 and we reached at exactly 8. So 11 hours, again 8 spiritual breaths, no praise is too high. And I didn't eat a single thing the whole day. I basically lived on water, one chai and umpteen glasses of nimbu pani. In the 11 hours, one did not have to go to pee even once, because the sweating is so enormous. There's nothing left to go to the toilet. It was a fascinating thing. It was an astonishing feeling, because you're not physically in any difficulty. Yes, my belief is if you're over 65 kilos, you're really going to have trouble, because some of the steps are pretty high, and there are, it's like, yeah, you got to, towards the middle, I was taking 3 steps at a time. That is all I could do. I would take the stick it up 3 steps ahead, and then use that like a lever or a fulcrum. 1, 2, 3. Okay, done. Now the next 3. That was the brutal part of it, that really difficult part of it, where, that is an experience in itself. That is something unique in itself. You actually see people go up 1 step at a time, because it weighs down so heavily. One step, okay. One step, then okay. Astonishingly, given the difficulty of the climb, you don't find anybody passed out, you don't find anybody ill. So there seems to be some inherent protection in the kshetra. And then I realized what that protection was. If you are not going to make it, after about between 1000 steps and 2500 steps, the people give up and turn back. Those who would have injured themselves, those who would have had a heart attack, or those who would have developed severe bleeding blisters, something of the sort, they all turn back. There is a extraordinary number of people turn back. I think 65-70% of people turn back. The day we went, I think it was more akin to 85% of the people turn back. So if you just make it through to the end, that itself is a culling process. That itself is a filtering process. And making it through to the end is fine. Then coming down is when the real agony begins. And it's steep. It's exactly like looking out of the window of the plane and seeing the earth below. And the steps run like this river down the side of the, and in the late afternoon these tremendous winds begins to start blowing, and then you're afraid, like, am I to worry about my footing or being blown off entirely? But what I felt about that mountain is, it is not like any parampara that I have been in many lifetimes. It is very specialized kind of sadhana. There is the Jaina vibration is they are very clear and open, and the temple is very clear and open. There is the Jaina vibration of sadhana, and there is the devotional people who come to that Devi temple in the middle. But this is occult and secretive and hidden. There is a whole sense of, there is so much here, but unless you are part of that and you know how to get there, you won't be. So there is a whole sense of strange processes, strange spiritual processes going on, strange sadhanas going on, strange people on the mountain, and you can access it. Because that's not your Inanubandhan, that's not your Vasana Samskara, you don't fit there, that's not your Parampara. So in a sense, you are protected from it, you're not blocked from it, you're just protected from it. Don't come here and get derailed. That is of course one of the greatest spiritual flaws that people have. They go to a powerful place and they get so intoxicated with that place that they leave whatever process they've been doing, the process which gave them the Shakti and the good karma to come to that place, and whatever is the dominant sadhana of that area, they pick that up. This is like one of the biggest mistakes that people make. I don't think you will be allowed to do that. Either you belong there or you don't belong there. There is no. So you go up, and even the lightest weight on your back becomes an issue. So when they say take a person to carry your saman for you, carry your goods for you, carry your water bottle for you, yeah, they're right. Take it, because even the lightest thing, especially in the beginning, because you're not used to it. And you go, you begin, you climb. Normally what the people do there is they start at 3 and 4 in the morning, so that when it's still cool and when it's still dark, and then the last 1 or 2 hours is only in the heat of the day. So they're all down by 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. That's the idea, though I doubt if that happens. We of course went in the absolutely wrong time of the day. We began at 9. Because we had to take a flight from Mumbai, go to Rajkot, then 2 hours by road from Rajkot, and then start the climb and make arrangements for the guide and all those kind of things. I think within the first 100 steps you realize this is going to be different from anything you experienced in your life. there are no categories anymore. There is no similarity anymore. There is nothing to compare and contrast. There is just this one experience. There is just this one process. There is just this one gati. It is just a flow, and if you allow it to flow, then you can do it. If you are in the gati, you can do it. If you are trying to do it with your body, most people will fail. If you are trying to do it as a challenge that I will climb the mountain or something, you will fail. So I was moving exceedingly slowly, and the people I was with, they were quite concerned because I don't move that slowly. And I'm trying to tell them I'm moving through soup, I can't. Then I gave up trying to explain because I can move only at that speed. And on the way up and on the way down, it was the same. I was moving in this literally like a snail. I was moving slowly, and I also, seeing how I'm moving, they thought I'm suffering, and I had to constantly reassure them I'm not suffering, I'm not in pain, nothing is aching, nothing is paining, nothing has been blistered. No, the heat is not getting to me, even though it was 45 degrees Celsius. But I suppose the obvious sort of reasons are sought for, and a sort of occult reason is difficult to comprehend. That nothing is wrong, it's just a process that is happening, and it was very difficult. I'm not going to. It was not impossible, but it was difficult to keep doing that, to just keep putting one step in front of the other, one step in front of the other, one step in front of the other. And then I realized this is a total dharana and dhyana complete, all your daily worries fall away, all your major concerns of life fall away, because now this is the only problem in your life. How do I get across that next step? And then you see some place where you can get some cold water and you're like, oh, okay. And wherever there is a little patch of shade, oh, all the mega issues of life fall away, and then you come down just to basic appreciation. So you go up beyond 2500 steps, and that's when you come to your first plateau. That's where the giant temple on Nimainath is. The temple is nothing very particular, though seems to be reasonably old, and it's rock temple. So what they've done is they've painted a pathway with some kind of odd chemical, which even though it's hot, your feet feel cool. Otherwise, if you're on the rock, you start dancing, because the rock is so hot. But the Murti of Nimainath is one of the most magnificent things I've seen in my life. They've made his eyes of precious stones, and they've developed a heart chakra and nipples for some odd reason, but that seems to be part of the iconography, made of precious stones, and it is an astonishingly powerful Murti. I've never seen anything like that. No giant temple I've ever seen a Murti like that. It was extraordinary. And it very obviously seems to have been, I don't know the history, but my instinct about it would be that it was bought here from somewhere else. It was bought here for safekeeping from somewhere else. But it is an extraordinary thing. And after that darshan, all of us found the going much easier. Till then, we were really struggling. All of us, we were struggling in a very, but that one darshan seems to have perked us up. Tirthankaras are anyways, their tapasya is anyways blood curdling. The giant Tirthankaras tapasya is the worst kind of tapasya, the most hard kind of tapasya. So it doesn't surprise me, and that whole plateau has been taken over with temples. There is one ancient temple, there are some recently constructed ones. The ancient temples, of course, are all constructed thousands of years ago, and miraculously constructed, and usually in one night. So there's no point asking the locals who built this temple, what is this, because they have it sort of upsets me in a sense that English language education seems to be the only way that people think reasonably and rationally as a basic way of being. Most of our language education seems to make people think in this miraculous manner, and I do not know why that should be so. They have TV up there, they have, all of them have mobile phones, and they all downloaded songs and ringtones and everything, but none of that seems to have touched them and their consciousnesses in any real way. They still live in a sort of magical reality. They don't live in a modern place. And later on we saw one very bad example of that. It's interesting, but that first, most people turn back from there. The giants all turn back from there. That first plateau, that's the pinnacle of the achievement, and they turn back from there. After that, the going was easier, but actually it's not easier. It's quite difficult. After that first 2500 steps, it actually starts getting difficult. And there's really nothing to say except to comment on how deeply fellow Indians love to dissuade people. You started at the wrong time, you'll never make it to the end. So anyways, that is another story. But once you get to that once you get to the Ambaji Temple, which is the second spot, and you're warned at that time that better tank up on water or whatever, because there's nothing further, there are no shops further. By the time the energy vibration is so manifest, the difference in energy, now it could be because of altitude, it could be because only the spiritually advanced people push beyond that point. The really fit people or the really innocent people. It could be there are multiple factors why. But once you're past the Ambaji temple, the shift in the Kshetram is what words are there to explain? It is so strange, and this is what I find very interesting. It is the sheer intensity of the Kshetram. It is not because the Kshetram is more powerful than Arunachalam. No, it doesn't even compare to Arunachalam. But in its way, it is unique. In terms of what it is doing, there is nothing to compare. So I learnt that, or I understood that this mountain is just smash karma, just to pound it. The person who comes, just be open to what is available. You don't even have to ask, even though it is supposed to be a wish granting hill. You don't even have to ask, because your accumulation of karma is just pounded. Just the fact that you've got to that space, you've just got past the Ambaji temple, and you're going further up the hill, it just starts hammering away at you. Temperance, you temper something by beating it with a hammer. Yeah, an extraordinary experience. And by that time you have run out of all conversation topics, and you have run out of observations on the world and the mountain and everything. You are only, how much more? Where is the next place? I mean, the way the mind stills, whether you want it or not, you get a still mind, at least for that. There is no more monkey mind, there is no more running. Atha yoga anushasana and then yoga chitta vritti nirodha. At least at the time you're on the mountain, chitta vritti nirodha. It's because that's all that matters then. You just get into this completely different state of consciousness, completely different mental state, emotional state, physical state, and all that matters is up, 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 up. It's not robotic, that's the extraordinary thing. You are intensely aware and conscious. But you're going through this barrier, you're going through this filtration. So I knew that physically I'm never going to be able to do this. Because while I am strong and while I have stamina, this is not about strength and stamina. This is about a quite different kind of use of the legs and the lungs that I am not trained for. I am not trained to climb. And I won't be able to make it. I can walk as much as you want, but I won't be able to do this because this is climbing and descent, of course, which is worse than climbing. So I was constantly using the affirmation, the smarana of the 8 spiritual breaths. Every cell in my body is a power plant working for me, and then I would say, "Now work for me, work for me, damn it!" And that liquid feeling in the body as many streams of liquid light are rushing downwards. That is probably the reason why I didn't feel the heat at all. It was astonishing because I'm a person who wilts in the sun. And here the sun is blazing and there are large stretches where there is no tree cover, there's absolutely no shade, no nothing. And the sun, I did not once say, "Oh my God, the heat is murderous" or "the heat is killing." So I learned something about our ESB also, that when we really need through, they come through. The smaranas of the 8 spiritual breaths, they really come through with the promise. What they promise you, they give to you. Before the Nimainath thing, there is actually a cave. I forgot about that. There is actually a cave which belongs to a very ancient yogi. He was a king and he had renounced his throne and everything and done many years of sadhana there. And now he is supposed to be still alive in the Himalayas and he's supposed to be over 400 years old. Now I have been told this by many people. One of the great spiritual teachers of today is the direct disciple of that yogi. So the tragedy for me is that you come near the cave and you can feel the power that existed, and then you go, they have converted that whole cave into a temple and the cave is locked up and somebody is there and takes donations, and it's really miserable thing to see. Why we do this to our culture and our spirituality, I don't understand. If a cave has been used for meditation, it should be preserved in that manner. They should not allow it to be converted into a temple. Dakshina gathering should not be allowed. However, that is a side issue. But that cave was extraordinary. It was really powerful, and that just the fact that the person sat and meditated, the imprint is still there. And you can get triggered in so many ways from that one cave. But once you are past the Ambaji Temple, there are no caves, there is no nothing. There is just, what's next? Okay, Gorakshanath peak. How many more steps? Only 1,500. Yeah. You come up to the Gorakshanath peak. There's actually a temple of Gorakshanath. There's a space where they built like a pavilion or something where he used to sit and meditate. There's actually a shrine with a pretty wild murti of Gorakshanath and everything. And that again is one of the most hard and uncompromising spaces I've ever seen in my life. It's I mean, Gorakshanath, Gorakshanath is famous all over India for the kind of Nathpanthi he used to be. But when you go there, you begin to understand. You begin to get a glimpse. You begin to get a small drop of experience, the magnitude of that man and his Shakti. Like what level of power he had attained. So, Shiva does not have avatars. It's very difficult for the Shiva energy to manifest and come into embodiment. Gorakshanath is supposed to be an avatar of Shiva, so it's that mind-boggling. So that whole peak, that whole spot where he sat and meditated and everything, and of course when we went there was a dog sleeping very comfortably in that smart animal. It's it's something. The whole mountain is suffused with the personal kshetram and the personal shakti of these great masters, not just the obvious ones, all the unknown people who have meditated there. So the Arnachalam, of course, Arunachala also has the personal shakti and everything, but Arunachala is different because it became conscious on its own. That is where consciousness dawned in the entire loka, in the entire dimension. That's where consciousness dawned. So it is a different state of, you're talking something completely beyond. It's not like these peaks are not conscious. They are not conscious the way Arunachala is conscious. But this is a place of sadhana. This is a place of tapasya. This is where you come with that determination that I'll break it. I'll break my limitation. I'll break my conditioning. I'll break whatever is stopping. I'm tired of wandering around like this and play acting at spirituality. This is where you come when you're serious. This is where you come when you've really given up everything else. So there is a vairagya dimension to it. There is a renunciation. There is a sannyasa dimension to it. The very hard, uncompromising masculine dimension to it. I've never seen something. The whole mountain's energy is very, very masculine. It's an extraordinary thing. It's an extraordinary thing. And then from the Gorakshanath peak, then the real Naraka starts, like because from Gorakshanath, which is the highest point on the whole Girnar, you have to go down, 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 almost to the foothills, and then you got to climb right up the last peak, the Gurusthan, which is the Dattatreya peak, which is almost as high as Gorakshanath. So, and that used to be till a few years back an open peak. It was left to the elements. Now, because of the usual Bhasmasura touch that India brings to everything, the ability to turn everything to ashes is part of India's genius. Bhasmasura is the founding father of India. There is no doubt. He is deep in the genetics of India. They built a concrete monstrosity on top of that. A shed with a sloping roof like the lighthouse, because when the rains come you need a sloping roof. And inside that they have put what is one of the most ugly murtis of Dattatreya I've ever seen in my life. He looks like he's been subsisting on dalda, not even ghee. And the pujari in there was, anyways, let us not speak about him. I shall avoid speaking about him. Now again I am saying this, for thousands of years it has been an open peak, and those who had the guts and the courage and had earned it could go and sit and meditate on top. How dare you convert it into this Dakshina collection center? How dare you convert it into a way to make money? It upsets me. But that descent from Gorakshanath, you descend, and those steps are steep. They are not the civilized steps that you were till now climbing. Those steps are steep, and you come down, and it's through, it's almost as if you are walking inside the mountain, because there's just rock, rugged rock. And your first view of Dattatreya, the Gurusthan, the first view of the peak is extraordinary because it's like an isosceles triangle of rock. It's a pure male fire energy. And Dattatreya is an odd kind of Devta. Dattatreya is a Devta that is known only in Gujarat, Maharashtra, and small parts of Karnataka. The rest of India has no clue who Dattatreya is. So very clearly Dattatreya is a created Rupam. Dattatreya is a Rupam created by great yogis for certain sadhana purposes, certain blessing purposes. In fact, Parashurama and Kartivirarjuna, the two great rivals, they are both supposed to be disciples of Dattatreya. Parashurama is actually supposed to have got an entire book of sadhana instructions from Dattatreya. So that but it's a created form. It's pretty clear that it's a Rupam that was created for certain specific purposes. Rupams can be created, Devtas can be created. India does things like that. Because nowhere else in India people know anything about Dattatreya. It's just Maharashtra, Gujarat, and little bit of Karnataka. Nowhere else people know anything about Dattatreya. So the traditional belief is that Dattatreya came and did tapasya on the mountain for 12,000 years. Now that's typical Indian hyperbole, I suppose. 12 years is the normal time you do a sadhana process. If you do a tapasya process or sadhana process, 12 years is sort of normal time. So I think that's reasonable. But it tells me that even the Rupam that was created, even the Devta that was created, felt the need to stabilize his Shakti. And then I understood something else also. This is again I am saying on my own. It's not written in any book, and it's just my understanding, it's just my insight, and I don't care what anybody else thinks about it. But on the Dattatreya mountain, I could not find any imprint of the Gorakshanath energy, and then it suddenly hit me. Oh my God, he never came here only. He just Gorakshanath just sat on his peak, and he was meditating on that entire Dattatreya peak, on the entire Guru Sthan, and he was just mainlining the energy. And I don't even want to think about it because we don't have the capacity. Only somebody like Gorakshanath has the audacity to even try a stunt like that, because it is so overwhelmingly powerful, and he was just drawing it into himself. Because a man like Gorakshanath, if he goes regularly to another spot, he will leave his energy imprint. It is impossible. Any halfway decent yogi can instantly pick up that because his energy signature is so unique. There's no trace of it. I'm like, what the hell is this? Then I understood why. He was like, I'm not here to waste time. I'm here to what was capable of being given, what the Rupam of the Dattatreya could give, he just took. Of course, he was Gorakshanath, so he went and sat on the higher peak. Gorakshanath always had very good opinion of himself. He never suffered from humility. That last, the Gurusthan, that last triangular mountain, it kind of twists and winds. It is serpentine. It is difficult. By the time you get to the top, you are done for. There is, and even the rock feels different there. The rock is unusually black over there. Just intense power. And then, of course, you have a typically semi-literate, holier than thou pujari sitting on top. And anyways, I'm not wasting time on such people. This again upsets me, that why don't we have hardcore yogis sitting up there? Why do we have these people? Why do we have these kind of people sitting up there? Whatever, I think now maybe there's some ashram is paying money for it. I don't know what the deal is. All I'm saying is that it would be a great day for India when we can dismantle that concrete and leave the peak free again. And I shall certainly, if I ever come into any kind of power and influence, I shall certainly make it a point to do that. That's not acceptable. What has been done to the peak is not acceptable. And there is a little place where Dattatreya is supposed to have kept his fire burning and all that. So you have to come down the mountain and go. So fine, you go there, you do the darshan. Actually, it's not for the darshan. Just the act of getting to the pinnacle breaks so many karmas in you that is it. And then you just sit in exhaustion on the mountain and you draw from the kshetra. That's it. The actual murti is superfluous. It's not needed. Then you come down. You somehow come down the Dattatreya mountain, and that's fine, even though that's pretty harsh in its own right. And then you have the whole of the Gorakshanath peak to go back up. That the word brutal also doesn't work, It doesn't work in describing that experience. There is a Sanskrit word bhayankaram. That is an appropriate word for bhayankar. You know what bhayankar means when you're going back up that flight of steps. And we made it up in mid-afternoon. I mean, we are extraordinary people. At 3:30 we are going up in that heat with not one blade of grass for shade or one leaf for shade. Oh man. Again, if you try to do it rationally or you try to do it with your bodily strength or your ego that I will beat this, it will beat you. But if you just flow, if you just allow gati to happen, then you realize you are being held up. You realize that there is strength coming to you, there is support coming to you, there is help coming to you. That since hardly anybody, by the time we are at the end, except on Shivratri days and high festival days, maybe 7-8% of the people who begin the climb get through to Gorakshanath and Dattatreya. Many people, they even give up. They come halfway down Gorakshanath and they say, we have to climb all this way back up. No, we can't do it. And they turn back from there. So that return trip from the Gurusthan, from the Dattatreya to the Gorakshanath, that I think is one of the most intense sadhanas that you will ever do in your life. I am not going to do any Ironman triathlon, so this will probably be my most intense physical thing in life, Oh man, it is. Even the experienced local people find it difficult. The guy was not saying, but he was giving hints. He was throwing out hints that maybe we shouldn't, maybe it's not you somehow stagger back to the Gorakshanath peak, and again the difference in energy between the two peaks is absurd in how it is such distinctive energy signatures. It's strange. That is one kind of vibration, this is another kind of vibration, and you sit there and you get your battery is recharged or whatever, because I think because so much of karma is dropped that even if you don't want to, some Shakti will enter you. So much of exhaustion has happened that even if you don't want to, some Shakti will come into you. And then you have to go down. And in many ways that might be more difficult actually. Going down steps might be more difficult, and then like I said, this really strong winds start blowing up. So you're quite concerned. You're quite concerned that will I be buffeted over? Will I be? Not always, but they blow. They blow very regularly. And the manner in which you zone out as you're going up and the manner in which you zone out as you're coming down are very interesting, because they are two different types of no mind experience. When you're coming down, actually you have to pay a great deal more attention. Where will I put my foot? What will happen? And you get really scared sometimes. Even though the shade and everything, no, you still won't go near there. You'll go near the place where there's a railing. And you'll come down very, very slowly, and the stick does not always help when you're coming down. The stick might sometimes be a hindrance, whereas when you're going up, the stick is really important. What to me was interesting was there is a way, as it is, it's not like I have any mind to speak of. The mind is basically dead. Thoughts don't process. But the multiple numbers of ways in which stillness can be achieved, that was very extraordinary. And there was two such distinctive experiences. It was beyond any. And of course, the guide was getting a little antsy because he wanted to come down before sunset, which I understand, because sometimes you can't see the step in front of you. Theoretically there is lighting all the way up, but that, like most Indian government facilities provided, they function on a, if there is a VIP visiting, I suppose it would function. And I think one of the reasons why Gorakshanath is not a popular, the Girnar is not a popular tourist spot, is because they don't make things easy for you. So, all the celebrities don't go there, because who's going to hump their famous ass up and down, up and down the mountain? I have not heard of celebrities running off. Everybody runs out to Vaishno Devi, everybody goes to Kailas, everybody goes to Arunachala, and you never hear of famous people going there, because it's nothing to do with being famous and nothing to do with what political post you have. It's all to do about, can you go up that step or not? And in a sense, that is also the protection, I suppose. By protecting it from becoming accessible to all the stupid celebrities of the world or the stupid powerful people of the world, the people who get there are the real people. The people who get there are the people who earned it. The people who get there are the people who deserve it. Of course, you can be carried up on the dolly if you want, but they apparently charge you per kilo and distance. So the fatter people pay more, and the distance, and it's very humiliating thing to see, because you're basically 4 strips of rope suspended on what seems to be like a seat ripped out or something. So you're basically carried up like luggage. You're basically carried up like. I suppose if there's no other way, that's okay, and it's after all employment to the local people. But I would say, why do it like that? Go when you're ready, or go when you're capable of it. And to me, the biggest lesson was, it doesn't matter how you do it. It was not an elegant climb in any ways. It was very ugly. On my part, it was slow and difficult and ugly, and there was no grace and no beauty and no nothing in it, but it happened. So to me, what matters is, did it get done or not how it was done. Because most of us have certain notions of how we will behave while on pilgrimage, and this grinds it all to fine powder, and then it doesn't even blow in your face, because the wind is too strong. It just goes away. But the fact is, you took every step of that. You took every step of that road. You went up on your own, and you came down on your own. That is something that the blessing that you get, the grace that comes upon you because you did it, cannot be, you wouldn't want to purchase it. You wouldn't want to be taken up like luggage. But to me, that was not it. The whole thing of there is a certain time frame in which it must be done, and we should walk very elegantly and in sequence and all together. And I saw so many people. It was extraordinary the way they were holding on to their mantra. Jai Sri Krishna, Jai Sri Krishna, Jai Sri Krishna, Jai Sri Krishna. It's Saurashtra, no? So it's very Vaishnava, even though there's no Vaishnava energy on this mountain, unless you count Nimainath, and he's not Vaishnava. And the way some people have no problem, they are leaping and skipping up and down, and other people are coming slowly. But to me, this was the most important thing. It does not matter elegance, or it does not matter style or anything. All that matters is do it. And once you do it, the process cannot be taken away. It is like a permanent resetting of your pranamaya kosha. It's like a permanent resetting of your emotions in your mind, and of course your body. You realize something very extraordinary about your body. That's what I was saying about the 8 spiritual breaths, that they can actually unleash capability when needed. You might not even be aware that the capability is within you, but by doing the breaths, the moment when you really need it, the capability is there. So, all in all, this was probably one of, I keep saying India is an incredible place because, it's not even difficult to access. Girnar is very much mainstream and not difficult to access. And there's just so much Shakti available. You can just draw. Or Arunachala is not difficult to access like Kailas is difficult to access. So much is available, and why don't people take? It's free. I mean, it's free in monetary terms. You have to earn it in karmic terms, but so much is available. So much is just there for the taking, and we don't take. I find it extraordinary. I find it really extraordinary. So let's see. One day maybe soon I shall return. Not in this heat, but I'll go in winter. Because this time I was just make it to the top and come down. The next time there will be the capability to process and access what is going on there will be far vaster. So it will become a more powerful thing. All I can say is that Girnar mountain is one of the great miracles of the world. It's one of the grand things in yoga. It's one of the most astonishing things in yoga. And we are so lucky that all these things are so easily accessible now. Previously, it would have taken months. If you had to go from Bombay to Gujarat, it would have taken you 2 months to get there minimum. And then interior Saurashtra. And then God only knows how you would have made it to the top. These places are created for yogis. These places are created for people who really want to liberate themselves. We want to drop this whole mess of karma, and they are all available. I suppose this is the fast forward route. The same thing can be got at Arunachala, but Arunachala is way more gentle. This is like, okay, you've come, right, let's put this guy into trouble. Like the path of pain and suffering. Bhayankaram, that is what I call that path. Anyway, it's just an experience. It's just something that I find it to be one of my peak experiences in life. So it is, and what I have got from there, I know I will not immediately be able to process. I will not immediately be able to access, because it's deep stuff in the pranamaya kosha, deep stuff in the mind. It will reveal itself slowly. Just one trip can do that. Imagine if regular, and imagine what the people do who sit on the mountain and do sadhana, spend years on it. Sarvam Shivamaya.